Hello, I'm Dan Alexander. Thanks for joining me for another episode of my webcast series. Oh, let me straighten my thing here. Okay, now, before I start, I've already started, but before I begin, let me just say this. This is a crazy, dangerous world out there right now. Don't listen to the politicians, listen to the scientists, wear masks. Please, I'm tired of staying home. I don't know about you, but I am really tired of it. All right, so what I want to talk to you about in an audio, in the audio field today is the size of recording studios. You know, I've been in hundreds of recording studios in a lot of different countries, and great music can be recorded in any number of different kinds of studio layouts, different size rooms, no rooms at all. Uh, um, you know, there's no accounting for uh, what's going to be a hit and where and how it can be recorded. But one thing that I've experienced is that most of the really great recording studios are very large, and this comes from the classic rooms that were built by recording companies back in the 30s and 40s and 50s, and there were a pretty substantial number of studios throughout the world that had pretty, large studio rooms. I got a little list I made here, uh, like RCA New York and CBS New York and CBS in San Francisco and Automated Recording in New York and Abbey Road and Woodland in Nashville and RCA in Nashville, Bearsville and Coast on Harrison and United Western Studios 1 and A and B and A&M Studio A, and there's lots more. And I'm sure there's a substantial number of them that I am not really aware of. I'm sure there's studios in Australia and in Africa that are very large rooms. I know there's some studios in Bangkok that have a studio that has a very large room. So, but the preponderance of recording studios are not all that large. I mean, especially when you talk about modern, in your spare bedroom kind of thing. But many studios have studio rooms that are, they'll be like 18 by 25 or 25 by 35 or 40 by 20 and things like that, why does it matter? Well, aside from the fact that, of course, you can get more instruments in the room at the same time, recording in a very large space is different in terms of the way that the microphones work in comparison to a small or smaller space, simply because the reflections, whatever they may be, that come back to the signal source arrive. If you're recording in a small room, those reflections come back much faster than if you're in a very, very large room and where the sound basically is dissipating. um, uh, uh, um, Eddie Kramer said in an interview one time, uh, distance is depth. And while you know, most of the time you don't want to record your acoustic guitar from 30 feet away, or even your lead guitar. I mean, sometimes, but it, nonetheless, the space around the signal source definitely has a significant effect on the way that the instruments sound. I, I want to give you an example that you can check out. I've been listening to a lot of Led Zeppelin recently, and you know, I'm not going to go into the story of how I tried to sell Jimmy Page a gussied up, sunbursted gold top when I was 18, but that's another story. But, and I'm not going to mention Tom Lubin's, well, I'm not going to linger on Tom Lubin's first experience as a recording engineer, which was trying to do a recording for an unknown English band in a studio in Boston where he was an intern. And yeah, it was Led Zeppelin and it didn't work out. So, anyhow, but if you listen to, and you know, I'm not going to, you can make your own judgment about the songs or whatever, the performances. Let's compare Whole Lot of Love to Kashmir. Now, personally, I think they're both pretty spectacular. And God, those guys can play. It's ridiculous. So, but if you go to about 3 minutes in to Whole Lot of Love and hit play, you're going to hear about 20 seconds of the most incredible sounding rock and roll recording ever, period. It's ridiculous. Now, this stuff was done at in Olympic, in Studio One at Olympic, which was a gigantic room. I believe that it was about, and I was there, but it's a little hard to remember. It was really large. This is what I recall Glyn Johns mentioning. I think it was 60 by 80 with 40-foot ceilings, which is really, that's big. And it was wonderful sounding studio. Kashmir, and that would have been recorded on the custom built console that Dick Swettenham built, just the predecessor to the first Helios console. And the first Helios console was in Studio 2 at Olympic. And Kashmir was recorded at Musicland in Munich, Germany. And I was also there. And Musicland was a, you know, it was a moderate sized room. My recollection, and it could be a little off, I think it was about 35 by 30 with about 15-foot ceilings or something, something of that nature. And I am not going to sneeze during this video. Okay, so it was a nice sounding room, and they had a Harrison console, sort of a typical 32 or whatever it was, Harrison. Very much the same as the consoles they had at the Automat in San Francisco. And I had one of those consoles that came originally from the Automat in one of the studios at Coast on Mission Street when I took over there. And it's not my favorite sounding console. But do yourself the favor of just compare. Listen to the sound of John. And I mean, it's hard to get a bad drum sound on John Bonham, for God's sakes. I don't care what you do or where you do it. But if you compare the drum sound on Whole Lotta Love to the drum sound on Kashmir, I think it's a pretty interesting comparison. And in fact, if you compare, Led Zeppelin 2 to that one, which was Presence, I think, with Kashmir on it. I get a little confused after a while. You're going to hear the difference between a really big room and the same group of musicians in a room that's, a moderate size. I mean, there's lots and lots of studios that are about the size of Music Land. They're all over the world, a million of them. So anyways, I just think it's really large studio rooms are special, and being able to work in them is a real pleasure. Well, it could be. So, so in any case, that's all I wanted to talk about in this video. That case right there, that beautiful brown Gibson case, that's for a 1958 Gibson ES 175 that I have for sale right now. It's in pretty much immaculate condition. And yeah, so that's what's happening. I appreciate you checking in here, and I'll be doing this again real soon. You take care, stay safe. Can't wait for that vaccine, huh? Take care now. Appreciate it.